Hello again, and welcome back to my Avatar vlogs. This is episode 9, the Waterbending Scroll. After everything that was established in the last episodes, this one takes it down a little bit. This is a bit more of a comedic episode, but, it's still good. It's a good episode. There's one detail about it I'm not sure how I feel about, but we'll talk about that in a bit. I can talk. So Team Avatar is still traveling along with Aang, stressed out because he realizes now he has to save the freaking world in less than a year. I don't blame him. And with that in mind, it turns out he is no closer to learning any waterbending than he was at the start of this mission. So everyone suggests they're just going to take a little bit of time, and Katara's going to teach Aang what she knows. Which even then, even though she's a waterbender, she doesn't know very much either. She's kind of very novice at this too. So they land near a lake, and Aang and Katara start to do a little bit of water bending. And turns out Aang is actually a little bit good at this. He picks up all the things that Katara knows very, very fast and is much better than she is at it, which makes Katara a little bit jelly, which admittedly is kind of funny. I don't know, seeing her kind of jealous is a little bit humorous. And but after Aang accidentally washes everyone's supplies away, they have to go to the marketplace in order to pick up more food and supplies. And while they're there, they come across a gang of pirates who have access to a waterbending scroll that, can teach Katara a lot of very advanced techniques. Katara steals this from the pirates, and they're now being hunted down by a gang of pirates who I don't know if it was on purpose that they're designed and acted the way they are. But after a brief cameo from the Cabbage Man, he's back. Cabbage Man's back. Aang and Katara steal the scroll, and meanwhile Zuko makes his way into the market because Iroh has lost a Pai Sho tile. That's the first time in the show that the game of Pai Sho is referenced, which will become important later on. So yeah, it's kind of important that was mentioned in this episode. Zuko and Iroh are in the market trying to find the Pai Sho tile, but while they're there, they find out that the pirates have come into contact with the Avatar. And so the two team up to basically hunt down Team Avatar to get the water scroll and the Avatar back. All the while, Katara has to work through some issues she has with being a little jelly. So again, this is another good episode. Definitely more comedically leaning than the last one, which is fine. You have to balance the drama with the comedy, which this show is very, very good at. The only thing about this episode I'll get to right off the bat that I'm not sure how I feel is Katara stealing the water scroll. Now, in many respects, that it's not like this feels completely out of character for her, but it does feel a bit much, given how supportive and kind of noble she is. It does feel a little weird she would steal this, and it's not like it was something that she was pushed to an extreme to. She's just kind of not as good at waterbending as her best friends. So yeah, and the show's always kind of constantly trying to kind of justify this little decision by saying, well, the pirates stole it from someone, so it's okay for us to steal it, which you could read into that deeper if you want. I just don't really buy the justification that you can steal what was stolen, because it's not like you're returning it to where it came from. You're just taking it for yourself. So yeah, that's kind of the one element of this episode that I'm a little bit iffy on, but it's a minor point. It's not really anything else. Everything else in this episode it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, I don't know if this was intentional. I like the pirates in this episode, and it could just be that the episode wanted to have pirates, but I'm kind of wondering if this episode is poking a little bit of fun at One Piece. Now, it's not like overt, like they don't use any characters' names from One Piece that are very obvious, like none of the designs are super blatant. It could just be what I'm overthinking, but it almost feels like the show is taking a tiny bit of a reference or a jab at One Piece and kind of poking a tiny bit of fun at it. Because the pirates they're very ugly. They're very, but they're not ugly in the way traditional pirates are. Like, they're not ugly in the way like a Pirates of the Caribbean pirate is. They're almost effeminate, if that makes sense. Like, they kind of look like they're all guys, but they kind of look like very pretty, ugly men. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just they're all kind of effeminate looking, and it reminds me of like the designs from One Piece. That's kind of what I think they were going for, but I could be wrong. But if that is what they're going for, I did kind of appreciate that. I also like too how the captain of the pirates is sort of a little bit more badass, the complete opposite of Luffy, but he still gets his own comedic moments in, like bleeding hog monkeys. So the pirates are kind of funny in this movie. I also found out that one of the main pirates, forgive me if I'm butchering this name, but in the credits it says it's Byron McCritton. But it turns out Byron McCritton is not a real actor. It's just a pseudonym for one of the co-creators, Brian Contizio. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. I don't have the name in front of me, but for now let's call him Brian Montezuemo, because why not? And it turns out that Brian actually does a couple background voices in the show. He was also, if you remember in the Kyoshi Warriors episode, he was this guy who, when Aang showed up, he was like, wah, 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 wah. He was that guy. And he gets a couple appearances in the show later, but that was just kind of cool to me. It was sort of nice to see Zuko teaming up with pirates to kind of for a common good. It's not like everything is out there to get Zuko. Plus, it sort of shows that Zuko and Iroh are in fact kind of way over their head in this. You know, with Iroh being a goofball, completely derailing his mission just to get a pie showpiece. I was going to use a Pokemon reference, but then again, I know lots of people who would completely derail everything just to get a rare Pokemon card, so it's not unrealistic, just kind of goofy still. And the fact that Zuko is still a teenager, so he still gets kind of petty and a little jealous, and he's not always thinking things through. He's kind of just acting completely on impulse, even if it's totally in disservice to his own interests. There's even a point where after after the pirates capture Team Avatar, he wants to give the scroll back, but it turns out the pirates want the Avatar because he's worth much more money. And then the two start fighting over each other, and Iroh says, "Are you two so busy fighting you can't even realize that they've duped you?" Which, very appropriate. A lot of villains in this show sometimes are very much just stupid people fighting against their own interests. That was just kind of humorous to see. And of course, the episode does end on a bit of a punchline where it turns out the pie showpiece was in my robe the whole time. And then Zuko takes it and throws it away. A little bit of a obvious joke, but still very funny. Is there anything else about this one? Not a ton. It's a decent enough episode. I don't know about Katara's stealing. That's a little weird. I will admit the one scene that did kind of make me laugh, because it's based on stuff that happens later in the show, is she kind of yells at Aang because she's just fed up with him being better than her, and she just kind of loses it a bit. But then she apologizes and said, "I'll never do that again." And all I could think was, Katara's not going to yell at people anymore. Yeah, okay then. She tends to do that a lot. It's all good, but she does that a lot. She never stops yelling at people. Just a second. Oh, okay. So there's one other element of this episode that I'll bring up a little bit. I'm not going to bring up exactly what I want to talk about, but there's one scene in this where it turns out Zuko still has Katara's necklace, and he's captured her, and he says, "If you lead me to where your brother is, I'll give you your necklace back." And I don't know if this was intentional, but something about that scene, it kind of felt like one of those really crappy fantasy books that's just an excuse to be erotic, like A Court of Thorns. I'm sorry, where, it's like the bad guy has the girl tied up, and it's like, if you give me what I want, I'll give you what you want. And it's like, oh, they're going to bang, aren't they? Yeah, I know in the context of the show that doesn't work, but it's like, it kind of feels like one of those really bad romance novel, like fantasy novels, where it just is kind of an excuse to go like 50 Shades of Grey. And to the point where I actually looked up when the first Twilight book came out compared to this episode's airtime, and it turns out the book came out way after this episode airs, so you can't say that Avatar inspired Twilight or vice versa, but it's one of those scenes that's definitely a little weird. Not weird in an uncomfortable way, it's just like something's off. My sniffer's not going, it's not taking this one in. But with that said, this was another decent episode, good comedic follow-up, some A little bit of One Piece, jabbing, so I'm all for that. But with that said, that's all for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Onwards and upwards, my friends.